Hello and welcome to this lesson where we're going to take a more in-depth look at layer blend modes and how they work. Now, these blend modes are based on mathematics, but instead of focusing on all of that, let's take a more simplistic approach at these blend modes to demonstrate how they work. Understanding the math and all of that really isn't necessary. So, the first thing you'll notice if we hover over the blend modes is the blend mode dropdown has all of these blend modes grouped together in different dividers here. Now, that's mainly because they share similar characteristics in terms of what they do. So first we have this group, which is just normal and dissolve. Now by default, normal is what the blend mode is set on for the layers, and the pixels remain unchanged as long as the opacity, of course, is set at 100%. Now dissolve, if we check that out, you'll see you really don't notice much of a difference, but that's because it's reliant on the opacity. So if we take this down, you'll see it just applies basically like a noise filter on the layer. All right, so the next section here, we have this group which contains basically a darkening effect across all of the blend modes. You'll notice the darkest area of our demonstration layer remains intact when we choose darken, whereas the lighter portion, which was previously white, as you'll see here, pretty much goes completely blank and it does not have any type of effect. So now notice the grays right here. We have a lot of the grays that show up. Now if we change this to multiply, we'll see there's less gray that shows up. And that's just one difference. And also what's important to note about all of these here blend modes is you can notice this was previously white and it's completely not affecting the base layer right here at all. And that's what all of these do. So if I use my keyboard up and down arrow key, we start here at darken. We'll go to multiply, which really just does the same thing except there's less gray involved. Color burn really stomps out a lot of the detail and it really results in a much darker appearance, as you can see. Linear burn, you can see, is the same thing except there's less saturation, as seen here. And darker color is very, very similar to darken. And you'll see there's just subtle changes that you can notice. So next section we have over here, this is all basically the opposite of this section. So this is about lightening things and this is about darkening things. So we have darken versus lighten, and that's the opposite. Just watch what happens when you change to lighten from darken. You'll see it just flips and reverses that effect. We can see there's no longer a black bar, but instead we do have a white. And the same thing for multiply versus screen. If we go to color burn, we'll see we have color dodge. And then we have linear burn versus linear dodge, and darker color versus lighter color. Very simple to understand. All right, so the next section has the contrast blend modes. And the easiest way to think about them is that they're basically the top two sections above, like the lighten and darken blend modes, combined together. So if we look at the lighten and darken blend modes and then the overlay mode, you'll notice that the overlay acts as a combination between the both. So we'll look at darken, we'll see lighten, which is the opposite, and then we have overlay. And you'll see not quite all of them disappear. It's more of a combination of those two. And so we'll see if we try soft light. Again, these are just combinations of the above two. And I'll just use my keyboard down arrow to go through all of these. All right. And then the next section below, we have the difference blend modes. And to run through those real quickly, difference simply means it will invert the pixels below the difference blend mode layer, like on the BG, where the areas are white. So notice if we go back to normal, we have white over here and white right here. And that's going to be the area where the pixels are inverted the most, while these darker areas are going to be left remain unchanged. So as you can see, it just changed this over here to pretty much white because this tree area is almost pretty much black. Whereas up here, this is white, so it's going to make those dark where the white shows up. All right, and then we also have exclusion. We can see it does the same thing, except we do have the portion where it's 50% gray is pretty much not affected at all, and it remains gray. We have subtract, which significantly takes anything that's white and makes it black. And then we have divide, which is pretty much the opposite of that. And then finally, we have the color blend modes down here, which are handy when you're attempting to give a photo more color or add color to a black and white photo. So we can see what happens when we choose hue based on the color band down here. We have saturation, which really saturates the picture. We have color, and color is pretty much the blend mode you would use to take a black and white photo and give it color. Just a quick demonstration. I'll create a new layer real quickly, Control-Shift-N, and I'll hide this. We'll take our BG layer and duplicate it, and hit OK. We'll go to Image, Adjustments, and Desaturate. So it's now just a black and white photo. And on this layer 1, we can change it to color. And then we could use the brush tool. We'll choose maybe a green, desaturated lighter color right here. And we have a feathered brush for our brush tool. And then we get to start giving a color like this. And the degree to which you add the color, you can change to the opacity down here to bring it back if you wish. All right, and then finally we have, I'm going to go ahead and delete these. Bring this back. We have luminosity. And luminosity has the opposite effect of the color mode just above it. All right. So hopefully you have a more solid understanding of how blend modes work and what they do. So in the next lesson, we're going to focus on layer styles. So I'll see you then.